Well, hello and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. It's time for a workshop catch-up again, or catch-up to be more precise, and we'll start with this car that's been one of the stars of the show, and rightly so, for some time here at the workshop. And this is the Miura S, the Lamborghini Miura S, which has had a total restoration apart from the interior, and this was the car that resided in the Black Forest in Germany all its life, and it was bought by a German gentleman, and he sent it to us for restoration. And Craig has done a beautiful job of putting all the original interior lovingly and extremely carefully back in, even including rejuvenating the original carpets. And what's happened just recently is Marcus has put the engine back in the car, which is fiddly because it's got to come down this way, and then the differential, being all one unit, fits under here, so it has to come down and rotate through 90 degrees. And one of these times when logistics and timing and all the rest of it permit, we'll actually show that happening. But this is a working workshop. We have to just work around things and schedule things as we can. But anyway, the engine and gearbox are in. We fitted this exhaust up just for fitting purposes. That's the original, or not original, but an original steel ANSA exhaust from the 1960s and 70s, which is a lovely bit of kit on its own. You just never see those now, really. They've all been long since replaced by stainless steel aftermarket systems. Marcus is going to put the carburetors on this, finish the ignition system, and we'll see if we can get a tune out of it. Hopefully it's behaving itself. Next video, this will be running. So let's move on to some other projects. Well, here we have another interesting bit of automotive history, but for some very nerdy reasons. This is the engine pack, the power unit assembly, out of a Lamborghini Urraco P250. The Urraco was announced in, I think, 1970 or 71 by Lamborghini, and it was an attempt to make a Porsche 911 competitor, high volume, reasonable profit, sort of rather than their V12 Miura models, which were far more costly. But it unfortunately didn't work because they had trouble homologating it for the US to get in. They had to detune the engine so much to meet emissions regulations that I think one motoring journalist in the time rather harshly compared it to a Fiat 124 Coupe in terms of acceleration with a little 2-litre engine. But be that as it may, this is an interesting job we've got in. We always have to be very careful how we spend the money on Urracos, because they're not the most valuable Lamborghini in the world, but we can add value and we can make them work again and make them beautiful, as long as we just are very, very sensible with how we spend the owner's money. The whole thing is mounted on a subframe, and this was, okay, the Mini had a similar setup in 1959, but this was largely a new concept at the time, and the whole power pack sort of was bolted up. It was offered up underneath the car, and it was bolted into place, and the engine is a little 2.5 litre V8. And one of the reasons why it is interesting historically is Lamborghini invested a huge amount of money in tooling for this car, expecting to sell them in their thousands. And the likes of the cylinder heads, this is actually interchangeable from one side to the other, so they're symmetrical. But it was the first car, to my knowledge, Lamborghini invested heavily in Olivetti tape-controlled machines that machined the cylinder head surfaces, drilled the holes for these securing bolts, etc. Rather like the precursor to the modern CNC setup. But it was all done by a tape, like a ticker tape with dots in it. This was placed very carefully, the part that was going to be machined, on the table, and it was milled, the head gasket was skimmed, planed, whatever, all done on these ticker tape machines. And I think it was the first ever car in the world that was done on. I'm sure people will correct me if that's not the case, but so the whole thing is a lovely little V8 engine. It's very compact, and we've got the gearbox on the end here, drive shafts, rear wheels. The whole sub-assembly is bolted up into the car, and 3 mountings at the back, 2 at the front, and the exhaust system comes out here, out the back, underneath the back of the car. It's a beautifully elegant setup. It's fitted with a cam belt on the front, which drives the whole engine, essentially. And then there is another tooth belt which drives the ignition system and the alternator here. So it's quite a compact little setup. It's rather like a Porsche 911. Everything's squeezed into a cube, effectively, to fit neatly inside the car. So there we have it. We'll move on to the next project now. Well, one of the other cars that is a sort of long-term project is the Bentley S2. And we've stripped the interior on this car, and this is the original Connolly Vomol leather. It's Vomol Luxan, to give it its full title, and it's from new. Connolly they did the base colour, this dark red, and then they did a hand-washed in terse, as it was called, very skilled work to actually bring out the antique graininess in the leather to make it look old and figured, because nowadays manufacturers use what's called embossed grain leather, which means it's been through a series of rollers so that it's all uniform. So no matter where they come to on the hide, they know they can join two bits together and have the same grain. It's a cheap and cheerful way of getting the most out of a piece of leather, particularly if they stretch it, they skive it as it's called at the corners. But actually Connolly, being the craftsmen that they are, this was the best automotive leather in the world, Connolly Vomol, and they actually put, and because it was natural grain, i.e. unsullied by a machine, it still had the figuring from the skin in it, and they brought that out with this hand washed in terse. And these were very dry. This car has been in a garage, as they quite often are, for some years, untouched. So we brought it out, and we're actually rejuvenating the leather. We're feeding it to bring it back into moisture and pliability, if such a word exists, and it's actually responding beautifully. The stitching, because it's Rolls-Royce and Bentley and everything was utterly superb craftsmanship, the stitching has survived intact, as has the foam padding, and this will actually come back to life with a very light Connolizing, absolutely beautifully. We're going to retain this. This is the original leather from 1962, and it's just coming back to life beautifully. There's the original colour. A lot of companies would just say, no, we need to retrim that, it's way past its best. This is part of the character of the car. It's part of the integrity of the car. We would never dream of replacing this leather. It's going to look fabulous when it's done. We're going to make quite quantum leaps with this Bentley interior. We're going to do the headlining, the woodwork, all the other bits. Alex is busy stripping out the door trims and the doors to get the wood, the garnish rails as they're called, from the top of the doors on the inside off. So yeah, plenty more to see on this project. Well, no Workshop Catchup video would be complete with either Craig or James or any other of the team. And James, this is coming for a headlight bulb, I understand.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yes, and we found, no, it has not come in for a headlamp bulb. You basically, this is a Jaguar E-Type.
That's right,
It's a Series 2 Roadster, or open-top sports, as Jaguar called them.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is actually a surprisingly rare car. I suspect, it's amazing the way these things creep up on you. This is an original right-hand drive factory car, because most of them went to the US, of course, and were left-hand drive. And I think there's probably less than 200 of them left.
Okay, so rare car, yes. No.
But, I mean, obviously I can see lots of new metal work here.
Well, of course, they rot terribly, don't they? It's had all new floors and sills and arches, all sorts of new panels.
Right. So we sent this away for blasting, didn't we?
That's right, yes, and it's come back with this primer on it. So everything that's this colour is original, everything that's black is new.
Right.
The panel's gone in.
And you have been busy, haven't you?
Yeah, there's been a lot of work on it, yeah.
Gosh, and this is not a dog guard, is
It's
it?
just, no, it's just to brace it up a bit whilst there's no floors in the car.
Exactly.
So all this is cut out, this is in situ, I have detached it there now.
Right.
Same on the other side.
Because you've had this is You can't do it at the moment because the boot area there's hardly anything left at the back end at the moment. But you had it on a rotisserie, didn't you?
The whole job's been done with the car upside down, so all the floors have been replaced from the other side. This inside still needs a bit of cleaning and finishing off. But yeah, I've just turned it back over now just to do some work on the
right. And you're concentrating on this area here, the rear haunches
now, yeah,
and the door gaps.
Perfect.
I mean, I know there's no outer bodywork.
Yeah, no,
that's perfect.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. I mean, they weren't that wonderful to start with.
No, but these ones are good. Happy with them.
And I mean, this is the funny thing, isn't it? People demand more perfection nowadays than they ever would have if they walked into a Jaguar showroom in the 1960s.
No, a lot of these cars weren't good at all when they were new.
No.
We're definitely improving them in that respect.
Yes. And also rust-proofing wise, this will be rust-proofed far more than it ever was.
More care will go into, the bodywork than ever would have off the production line. So
yeah,
it's all done very nicely.
And this is this is a rear wing.
That's this rear wing here, yeah.
So this is this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how
they're really good quality panels. I'm really, really impressed.
Well, I was just but you can actually move it and twist it. It's amazing how unstrong car body parts are until they're actually
when they're attached together.
I mean, these things are. I know you're saying these are good quality and they're of the correct thickness, but everything's so.
Yeah.
When it's just sheet metal.
That's right. That's all it is. All pressed metal, pressed steel. That's right. Yeah. That's how it's made.
It never ceases to amaze me how.
Loads of spot welds everywhere to drill out all over it. Drilled out hundreds of spot welds on it.
But it is just literally tin, isn't it? Tin work, and it's got all these strengthening sections.
That's right. Will help it.
And the drivers and passengers' footwells. This is was it first 200, first 180?
Series ones, yeah.
Well, the flat floor ones, as they called it.
That's right, yeah.
And then they realised that there wasn't enough room for the driver's feet under the dashboard.
No.
So they literally, Jaguar's answer was to, instead of making a new body press, they actually just cut a hole in the floor and put these bathtub type things in.
Yeah.
And they work. Incredible.
They're quite vulnerable underneath the car to damage, aren't they? Those those low floors, they quite often get hit.
Yes.
But all brand new in this now.
Yeah.
Brand new floors.
You're doing a beautiful job. I mean, it's all, and you're replicating the original factory spot welds.
Yeah, that's right. But exactly as it came apart, so drilled out all the original spot welds and welded them all back up again.
Right.
That's right.
Well, it's just beautiful. But I mean, this car was revolutionary. 1961 it came out, E-Type.
E-Type.
And somebody who knows about these things mentioned yesterday while they were here that Enzo Ferrari was absolutely terrified of this car.
That's right, yeah.
Because it was light years ahead of...
Yeah. And such a beautiful car as well.
Yes.
Stunning car.
No chassis frame underneath.
No, that's right. All monocoque construction.
Yes.
Very, really nice. Designed it.
And I remember years ago, I was very fortunate to have a conversation with Jim Randall, who I think became Sir Jim Randall from Jaguar. And he was their head engineer for decades. Very, very clever man. And he told me that he based that frame on the front on a Norton motorcycle.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay.
That's what he told me.
Okay.
Straight from him, not through anybody else.
Oh, wow, I see.
So that's how he came up with that.
Where the idea came from.
Yeah, because obviously it's in two distinct halves, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got the pressed steel bit, the tub, and then you got that separate frame that everything at the front hangs on.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, got to get the bonnet aligned up on this. That'll be the next job. Once it's off the rotisserie at the front,
yeah,
I'll have to attach the bonnet onto the frame.
But this is it's coming on really well. I mean, I don't know how many panels have we bought for this car?
A lot of panels. It's had all sorts of
20.
Yeah, probably quite easily. Yeah. Pile's getting smaller though. So.
But the rusty pile's getting bigger.
Yeah. That's everything I've cut off it there. So kept all that.
And this is, you're making new sections here because you've cut out this.
Yes, I've cut that out. That was rotten. Well, there's a new panel arriving, should be here with me later on today, this panel here. So yet another new panel, but they fit very nicely and it's far easier than trying to make them. They're just right, so.
And again, that's quite a crucial structural bit.
Yeah.
Even that little piece of pressed steel. Because it actually increases the surface area of sheet metal here quite considerably.
Yeah.
25%, something like that.
Well, it was very weak when it came in because all the rust, all the sills were all rotten, and the floors were rotten, and all the B posts were rotten. So it's going to be a much nicer car after it's had this welding done.
Well, this is the scary bit because there's no MOT tests now.
No, just
And
down the road.
I know, even with the MOT tests, they're not allowed to tap.
No.
They just, I think they have a special plastic hammer.
They can't really tell at all. Unless there's an obvious gaping hole in there, then they can't really fail it, I don't think.
We hope the days of newspapers and paper mache are over, but we don't know, do we?
I'll mix them up later.
Oh, I see. We're still using that. Sorry, we'll delete that bit.
Yeah.
But no, that's. I mean, they're a fantastic car, and they were light years ahead of the competition, really. I think Ferruccio Lamborghini said, "Who needs a V12 when Jaguar build this?"
Yeah.
At the straight six-cylinder eater.
Yeah.
You know.
Very, very, very nice car.
Well, and this car behind us is the Urraco. I've just been having a look at the engine out of that.
That's right. The bodywork is next in line after the E-Type. Few repairs on that, and then off to paint shop. Yeah.
But it looks very solid.
It does. It's good. It's surprising. I was, weren't sure what we were going to find under the paint, but it looks really, really nice. So very pleased about that.
Great. Oh well. Okay. Well, this is coming on in leaps and bounds. This is,
Yes, getting a lot of attention at the moment.
Yeah. It. Right. Well. Yeah. Be ready in a few weeks' time. This.
Not today.
No pressure. No. All right. Well, thanks very much, James.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that concludes another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll be back with something else very soon.